even though, people think that Sukkot is still far off, we have a lot between now and Sukkot, is Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and it seems like there's a lot going to happen between now and then. And there is a lot going to happen, but is it too early to talk about Hilchos Sukkah? That's the Shaila. And there is a big machlekes, it seems like. If you look in Hilchos Yom Kippur and Hilchos Sukkah, in the end of Hilchos Yom Kippur it says, when do you build the Sukkah? Maschila miyad Matzim Yom Kippur v'siyas ha-Sukkah. Matzim Yom Kippur, immediately build the Sukkah. Why? K'nei lotzeis mi mitzvah el mitzvah, in order to go from one mitzvah to another mitzvah. That's the end of Hilchos Yom Kippur. And once again, in the beginning of Hilchos Sukkah, the Ramah speaks out. U'mitzvah l'saken ha-Sukkah miyad achei Yom Kippur, the mitzvah habal yadei al yachnitzena. A mitzvah that comes to your hand, don't be machmitz it. So Matzah Yom Kippur, the day after Yom Kippur, build your Sukkah. It's a little mashma, you should only build it then. That's the time to take care of Hilchos Sukkah. That's the time to take care of your Sukkah. But before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, it's not the time. Why not? Because this is the time of tshuva. Who has time to think about Sukkah now? This is the time of tshuva. A person who's doing serious tshuva, who's making cheshbon and nefesh, it's real work. And such a person does not have time to build a Sukkah. However, I had an interesting question. And that is, why is it that the Ramah doesn't say anything about Dal Minim? If I was the Ramah, I would say, build your Sukkah Matzah Yom Kippur and go to the esrog store. Buy your Dal Minim Matzah Yom Kippur. Immediately. And then the next halacha, in Hilchos Sukkah. The next day after Yom Kippur, go ahead and buy your Dal Minim also. Not just build your Sukkah, but also buy your Dal Minim. He doesn't mention a word about Dal Minim. Why not? So I was thinking, maybe the pshat is, there's a big difference between Dal Minim and building a Sukkah. Dal Minim, it's not biyadai. If you don't go on early to the esrog store, you snooze, you lose. You're going to get a shvacha esrog. You get not just a nice esrog. You come early, you get the nicest. If it's gone, that's it. You get a shvacha esrog. So an esrog, not necessarily you should wait till after Yom Kippur. The earlier you go, the maybe the better. A sukkah is biyadai, unless you hire Ted. It's biyadai. You go ahead, you build a sukkah. You have the boards in the stock in your garage. But Yom Kippur, you can go ahead and do it. It's up to you. So therefore, that could wait till after Yom Kippur, but not necessarily with Dal Minim. Dal Minim is not biyadai. If you go too late, you might not get a nice esrog. The Shari Tshuva, however, says it's not so simple, even by sukkah. He says by sukkah, maybe you should even build it before Yom Kippur. He says, "Im kein adraba hayatoyv lahaktim mitam shekotzav shemitzvah she'asa sukkah tistarif lachriya lekaf sukkos." At this time of the year, when we're looking for sukkosim, we're looking for mitzvahs. So build it now. Build it before Yom Kippur. We're looking for mitzvahs, just like Kiddush Levana is big machlekes. Kiddush Levana before Yom Kippur or after Yom Kippur. Before Yom Kippur because it's a mitzvah, it's a sukkos, or after Yom Kippur because we're more of a simcha after Yom Kippur. However, it's not so simple when is the best time to build a sukkah. It is interesting to say, the Shari Tshuva does say that maybe you should build your sukkah after Yom Kippur for a different reason. Because we do things this time of the year that are symbolic. Whether it's dipping apple in honey, to have a sweet new year. So we don't want to have anything to do with Golus. And a sukkah is very connected to Golus. Because in a sukkah, you're going out of your house, you're going to this floor-wall, a hut, with barely a roof over your head. And we don't want to have a year of Golus. So don't do that. But he says, no, we need schusim. You build your sukkah before. Akapanim, to machlekes, when's the best time to build your sukkah? And Dal Minim is mentioned. So Akapanim, it's not too early now to talk a little bit about Dal Minim and sukkah. So I'm going to discuss a little bit the inyan of Dal Minim, Derech Gedilasan, and other mitzvahs Derech Gedilasan. What is Derech Gedilasan? So the source of Derech Gedilasan is a pasuk in Parshas Truma. The pasuk says, "V'asisa as a kroshim lemishkan atei shitim oimdim." Make the kroshim for the mishkan cedar wood standing. So Rashi is interesting. Rashi says, what's the pasuk teaching us? That you might think you could put the kroshim horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's got to be 1, vertical, 2, 3, like that. Says Rashi. Ate shitim aimdim. Oirach hakroshim zokuf l'mayla bekirais hamishkan. V'loitasa kesolim bekroshim shoichvim. Don't make it horizontal. Don't make it horizontal. Make it vertical. So this is the first time that we see anything about how to place the kroshim, horizontal or vertical. Fine. But the Gemara in Yuma goes one step further. The Gemara in Yuma says that not only does it have to be vertical, but it also must be derech gedilasan. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina, why does it say in the pasuk cedar wood standing? It must stand derech gedilasan. So not only vertical, but the top of the tree is the top of the keresh, and the bottom of the tree is the bottom of the keresh. That's derech gedilasan, the way it grew. How does it grow? It grows up like this. And the top has to be the top of the keresh, and the bottom of the tree is the bottom of the keresh. That's the halacha by crushing in the Mishkan. The Or Chaim says very interesting in Parshas Truma. The Or Chaim says, how do we see this in the pasuk? So he says, Meduik in the lashon of the pasuk. Why does the pasuk say Ate Yeshitim Oimdim? Cedar wood standing. It could have said it. Vasisas across the Mishkan Oimdim. Ate Yeshitim. Or Vasisas across Ate Yeshitim the Mishkan Oimdim. Why does it say Ate Yeshitim cedar wood standing? It's mashma that has to be standing like a cedar tree. How does a cedar tree stand? Top at the top and the bottom at the bottom. As they state in the Or Chaim. Fine, so all we know is by the crushing. How do you know by other mitzvahs? It's Gemara and Sukkah. Gemara and Sukkah says, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bechai, Kol ha-mitzvahs kulan, all mitzvahs, Ein ad mitzvah behem ela derech gedilasan. You only yotza the way it grows. All mitzvahs. So now we stretched it, not only by crushing, but also all mitzvahs must be derech gedilasan. Shenemar ate shitim oimdim. Now the big problem that we're going to discuss today is the Rashi on this Gemara. The Rashi on this Gemara is extremely problematic. Rashi says, Kol ha-mitzvahs. What would you think? What is included in Kol ha-mitzvahs? All mitzvahs. So Rashi gives a list. Just 5 mitzvahs. He misses a lot of them, by the way. Says Rashi, Shmamidim, Derech Gedilasan, Kol ha-mitzvahs, keep going. What are the examples? 5 examples. Kroshe ha-mishkan, that we know. Amudim, okay, that's a nice chiddush, we didn't know that. Lulav, Hadas, and Arava. And he stops. That's it. That's it, he stopped. What happened to Esrig? I don't know. Schach, Sukkah, the Aron in the Mishkan. He's mentioned the Kroshim was in the Mishkan. Why not the Aron? Shulchan. And the Mizbeach. What about the Paraduma has grass in the process? And Mitzvah also, part of the process Mitzvah has grass. Bikurim. These are all Gedulei Karka. Do you have to take the Bikurim and put it derech gedilasan? Doesn't mention it. He only mentioned these 5. Now usually you say you only mention 1 or nothing, or you say them all, but you don't just say 5 and miss another 5. You don't do that. So what's the pshat in Rashi? And the biggest pella is Esrik. That's the biggest pella. Lulav, Hadas, and Rava, and he just missed Esrik. What's the pshat? If you look in Shulchan Aruch, it also seems at first glance that Shulchan Aruch seems to hold that Esrik does not need derech gedilasan for some reason. Says Shulchan Aruch, Yitel ha'aguda b'yodei ha'nimanis. You take the aguda in your right hand, the lulav and hadas and the rab in your right hand, roishein lamala, the top of the lulav, the roish of the lulav at the top, the ekreim lamata. So far he said lulav and the hadas and the rava, but esrik b'smoilus, and esrik in your left hand, and he stops. Well, why does esrik have to be derech gedilasan? Why does esrik have to be the pitim on the top? Why not? However, this is untrue. This is not true. Because Shulchan Aruch in 2 halachas later says, how do we do the bracha on lulav? There's a halacha called over le'asiyasan. You have to make the bracha before you do the mitzvah. So how do you do it by lulav? There's a couple eitzes how to go about doing the lulav with the bracha. You can't say the bracha and then pick up the lulav and esrog, because that's over the over. That's too much. It's too big a hefsek in between the bracha and the mitzvah. You can't pick up the lulav and say the bracha, because then you're already yotze the mitzvah. The whole mitzvah is being yotze the mitzvah. The second you hold it, you're yotze. So then you can't hold the lulav and say the bracha. It's too late. So how do you do it? One H says hold the lulav, hadas and ravim, and then you keep the esrog down on the table. You say the bracha, and then you pick up the esrog. That's one way. But Shulchan Aruch says another way. Or you hafech esrog ad shivara. You turn the esrog around and you make the bracha. So we see clearly Shulchan Aruch holds that turning the esrog upside down, you're not yotze. Because otherwise you would be yotze, right? If the Shulchan Aruch would hold like Rashi, that for some reason esrog doesn't need derech kedilasan, so if you turned it around, you would be yotze, because you could hold it and pit them down, you could hold the pit up, you'd be yotze. But Shulchan Aruch says an eitzah is hold the esrog upside down and make the bracha and then turn it around and you're yotze. So, and that's how you take care of the problem of Avdas Yasin. So Shulchan Aruch clearly holds that you turn the esrog upside down, you're not yotze. So this answers Shulchan Aruch, and it's not a good deal from Shulchan Aruch earlier. But what's the pshat in Rashi? Rashi says esrog for some reason doesn't need derech kedilasan. What's the pshat in Rashi? He didn't mention esrog. Why not? So really, it's not so simple. What is derech kedilasan by a esrog? It's not so simple. Mishnah Berurah speaks out. How does an esrog grow? It starts to grow, pit them upwards, but then it gets very heavy and starts to turn, and it falls over. So what's derech kedilasan? How does it grow? You look at the beginning of the process of growing or the end of the process of the growing. How do you look at an esrog? What is derech kedilasan? Says over the Yashiv, some Rishonim hold, I didn't see the Rishonim inside, but some Rishonim hold that there is no derech kedilasan by an esrog, because it starts like this and it goes like this, and how does it grow? What's the top and what's the bottom? It's so heavy. Says the Mishnah Berurah, when it's hanging, the uketz is up. So Mishnah Berurah paskins, the top, the pitim of the esrog is the top, and when it turns over because it's heavy is the bottom. But Rashi didn't be like this, and this is pshat in Rashi. Why esrog does not need derech kedilasan. He left out esrog because esrog doesn't need derech kedilasan. You can hold it like this, pit them up, or pit them down, because it grows both ways. It starts up like this, and it gets heavy, and it turns over. So according to Rashi, that's the pshat why he left out esrog, because esrog there is no derech kedilasan. Shulchan Aruch argues, and that's why we paskin that you hold esrog upside down, you're not yotze, and you can make the bracha with the esrog upside down, turn it over, shake, and you yotze the mitzvah properly with the bracha.
So by Rashi, there's no significance to doing that.
Exactly. According to Rashi, you'd have to come onto other eitzes, like making the bracha and then picking up the esrog, or the Shulchan Aruch does say, Mishnah Berurah brings another eitzah about you have kavana, I'm not going to be yotze the mitzvah until after I make the bracha. So you hold it, make the bracha, and then now I want to be yotze. It's a pella. Interesting you brought it up. It's a pella that you're holding the lulav and esrog, but you're not yotze the mitzvah. It's all based on your kavanas. I don't want to be yotze the mitzvah. You're not yotze. You're holding everything in your hands. Make the bracha. Now I want to be yotze, and you're yotze.
Do you know what Rashi actually did?
No, but this is just a pshat in Rashi. I can't promise that this is pshat in Rashi, but it's a severe Rashi which needs an explanation. And the only explanation I can think of is that Rashi held, Rav Elyashiv speaks this out in the Sefer HaOris, that Rashi holds that the esrog has no derech kedilasan. The top of the top or the bottom of the bottom. Either way, it's derech kedilasan because it turns over in the middle while it's growing. Okay, so that explains esrog. However, if you look back in the Rashi, he missed a lot of other mitzvahs. Why didn't he mention sukkah walls or the schach, or like we said, the Aron and other mitzvahs? What's the pshat in the Rashi? So we'll start with sukkah walls. Do sukkah walls need derech kedilasan? The Torah says it does. There is medaktakin. Yesh medaktakin. Kejoisin doifin mekanim la'amidim derech kedilasan. Some people hold you're building sukkah walls out of wood. It's got to be top of the top, bottom of the bottom. Now a new chumrah. You go to Home Depot. You speak to the guy. Now I need special walls, but I got to know what's top of the tree. I was like, what? I have no idea what's top of the tree, what's the bottom of the tree. But if you want, I can arrange it. It'll cost you a lot more.
With plywood, it's even tougher.
Listen, it's a new chumrah. Looking for chumras, you can always find a new chumrah. Yesh medaktikin, that you got to have the top of the tree at the top and the bottom of the tree at the bottom when you sukkah walls. But it says the
sukkah walls are different because there's no fear that they should be made of tree.
Oh, beautiful. Mamash Mechavan to the tour. Says the tour that our people that are medaktik, just like the lulav, top of the top, bottom of the bottom, so too by sukkah walls. Why not? Kisheris are kosher. Wood, stone, metal, it's all kosher. It's all kosher walls. And therefore, when you go ahead and use your wood walls, you don't have to. So you don't have to use wood. Therefore, you don't need derech delasan because you can use stone. So Torah doesn't care about wood. So when you use wood, you don't have to. Fine. However, this yesh medaktikin, this new chumrah of the yesh medaktikin is shver. First of all, they're kosher people, right? They made it into the Torah. So what's the pshat in that? So the Bach says two answers. First of all, the Bach says, one answer, you can use stone. But when you're doing it, you got to do it right. You're using wood, make sure you do it right. Derech delasan. If you're not using wood, okay, fine. So you got out of it. But when you do use wood, you got to do it right. That's one pshat in the Bach. Another pshat in the Bach says, is that there is one shita brought in the Rishonim. Abayis Ashri says you got to use wood walls. It's a Yerushalmi. We don't pass like this Yerushalmi, but the yesh medaktikin is that shita in the Yerushalmi. Okay, so we took care of the walls. That's very simple. Took care of the walls. You can use stone, you can use metal. Therefore, the walls don't have to be derech delasan. However, the big problem is going to be schach. Why doesn't schach need derech delasan? The Gemara says that everyone agrees that you must have tesailas goyer and v'yeket. You must have kidule karka. You must have something kidule karka which is not makabel tumah. Those are the only two conditions. So no one argues. Everyone agrees you must use kidule karka. So you should. This is another chumrah. Can you imagine taking your cedar and putting it straight up? You need another 10 times schach because I don't know how you balance it. But what's the pshat? Why doesn't schach need derech delasan? So the Bach also addresses this problem. And he says two interesting answers. One interesting answer, he says, is that trees grow sideways. So it's not upside down. This is derech delasan. He brings the raya from the Gemara. Now, I think originally when I saw the Bach, I thought he was referring to the actual tree. Now, I haven't seen too many trees going like this.
Well, the branches.
But the branches do go like this. Okay, and he does speak that out. He talks about the branches too. And therefore, since the branches go like this, so you can put it down on top of your sukkah. Fine. That's one answer in the Bach. Another answer in the Bach is a very interesting answer. I'm not 100% sure what he means, but he said like this: Inami shani schach, the kiva the kol schach shalai kederach kedilasai. Since every schach is shalai kederach kedilasai, lo be'ina derech kedilasai. I think what he means is that the Torah says you need a sukkah. What's a sukkah? 4 walls, 3 walls, whatever, and some schach on top. Now, what does the Torah want? The Torah wants a hut. Shivas yom the sukkah steishu. The sukkah steishu shivas yom. You sit in a sukkah in a hut for 7 days. Now, the Torah wants you to have some sort of roof. What's a normal roof? A normal roof is like this. This is what schach is. Schach is a roof. And what's the normal way to put a roof? Sideways, horizontal. That's what the Torah wants. And therefore, you don't need derech delasan because this is what the Torah wants. Torah wants a horizontal roof.
Why doesn't the Torah want a steeple roof?
Fine, that's also not derech delasan. It's got to be straight up. Maybe. I hear what you're saying. So you're saying maybe the Torah wants... Okay, yeah. I hear. But fine, so maybe this teretz is fair, but there's a beautiful teretz from Rabbi Eliashiv. Rabbi Eliashiv, again, in that Sefer Ha'oris, he says...
The Torah doesn't want a steeple for a sukkah.
How do you know? Why not?
Because a perfectly steepled roof is not a kosher sukkah.
Right.
You have to have...
Fine, but what about on a little slant? On a little slant, it's kosher.
But you have to have an area that... Even
if it's like a thrift,
like
if
this,
it's like
right?
It comes to an angle, then it's
right.
a bit shallow.
And the space, to avoid it coming to that angle, that space of, what is it, 2 tefachim?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
That's where you're putting the schach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's flat.
Like this, though.
Yeah, it would be kosher.
Yeah.
It would be kosher. Fine. So you're saying interesting. But the Asher says a teretz which knocks out schach from derech delasan. What's the answer? Says of the Asher, beautiful. Person takes his lulav and his esrog and he puts it through a blender, and then he wants to shake it somehow. I don't know how. It's the esrog dust somehow. He shakes it. Is he yotze? No. The Torah says he wants an esrog. Creates hadar. It's got to be nice. This is sawdust. Fine. Not yotze. What about schach? Takes his schach and puts it through a blender. Can he use it for schach? He could. But why not? Why not? Torah says gedula karka is one condition. Okay, this is. It's gedula karka, sure. And not only that, but it can't be mekabel tumah. Is this mekabel tumah? No, it's sawdust. So I don't know how you can keep it up there, but you're yotze if you get it up. So it says over the Ashiv, Torah doesn't care. You can take the whole schach and blend it and grind it and do whatever you want to it. So Torah doesn't care about derech kedilasan. You can take the top, put it at the bottom, take the bottom, put it at the top, mix it all up, and it's kosher schach. So since the Torah doesn't care, whatever you do to the schach is still kosher schach, therefore, for sure, the Torah doesn't care about derech kedilasan. That's over the Ashiv's beautiful text. A lulav, if you do that, you know, yeah, Torah's makbid. It's got to be perfect, and Ezra got to be beautiful. But the schach, as long as it's derech kedilasan, as long as it's gedula karka, and it's not mekabel tumah, it's good schach, and that's why schach doesn't need. However, there's another big problem in that Rashi. Rashi did not mention Aron and Shulchan and Mizbeach. What's the pshat? Do they need gedula karka? You're building the Aron and Avat Shitim also. Do they need gedula karka? So the Maril says, yeah, it does. It needs gedula karka. It needs the derech kedilasan. Sorry, it needs derech kedilasan. Make sure that you go when you go to Home Depot and you build Aron, you ask the guy, you need wood from the top, and this is the top, and this is the bottom. Make sure. That's the Maril. Says the Meshech Chochmah in Parshas Truma, tremendous chiddush, and it really will answer everything that we've talked about till now. He says you don't need derech kedilasan by the Aron. Why not? He says the kroshim and the lulav are different. The lulav, hold a lulav, eh? You ask anybody, what is this? It's a branch with some fancy leaves coming out. Yeah, willow branch, this type of branch, myrtle branch. Okay, it's a branch. What do you mean it's not a branch? It's a lulav. No, this is a branch. Whatever you do to this lulav, it's going to stay a branch. That's gedula karka. Also by the kroshim. The kroshim. What? Yes. Well, you don't ask anybody because they will know. But at any given point, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could say to Klai Yisrael, okay, we're traveling now, we're going, pack up your bags, we're going, okay, take apart the Mishkan, take apart the Kroshim, cedar wood standing. This is gedula karka at all times. Hashem could say, next second, we're going now, take it apart, dismantle it. Okay, this is gedula karka at all times. However, the Aron, you make it and it stays. This is a different chetza. This is not gedula karka. This has left gedula karka and is now something else. What is it? It's an Aron. It's a shulchan. It's mizbeach. It's a different kli. It says Meshech Chochmah, something which is not gedula karka anymore doesn't need derech kedilasan. As I stated in Meshech Chochmah, tremendous chiddush. And he says furthermore, by a sukkah and a schach, this is not gedula karka anymore. This is now a hut. This is walls with schach on top, the roof. This used to be gedula karka, but now you made a mini hut.
It changed the shame.
It changed the shame. Are you going to tell me you're going to take it apart in 7 days?
But not by the Kroshim.
The Kroshim, no. Because the says the Lashon of the Meshech Chochmah, he says, the Lashon here, B'dafka b'Kroshim shayu nefrokim b'masayis zemizeh. They travel, they come apart. You're going to take that in Sukkot in 7 days? It doesn't make a difference. You can leave it. Leave it up all year. No one's going to stop you. Keep the socks there. This is a hut, a permanent hut. You use it in the summer, you use it in the winter, you use it in Sukkot time. It's a hut. It's to change its name. It's not gedula karka now. This is a wall. This is a roof, not a very good roof, but it's a roof. It's loses shame gedula karka, and something with loses shame gedula karka does not require any more derech kedilasan. So it says the Meshech Chochmah, only the lulav stays a branch, and the kroshim stays asay shitim oimdim, because at any given time you have to take it apart. There it goes, asay shitim back to asay shitim again. But the sukkah, not necessarily. This is a different shame. This is a different thing now, and something which changes from gedula karka into a chepza. Whether it's Aron, whether it's Sukkah, does not require gedula karka anymore.
It's not the fact that you reworked it and carved it and shaped it.
Who's carved the schach? Just throw up a tree.
No, the Kroshim. Kroshim really has taken a new shape, in the sense that they stood in place for at times for more than a year.
What?
They stood in place for more than a year at times.
Fine, but even that year, every second they're like, okay, when are we going? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu could say now. Happens to be that they stayed there for the year, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have said we're not. We're out of here. So it had no kvius, and the sukkah, even though it is arai, but it could be there forever. Therefore, the change is this is now a hut. This is now up to you. You can leave it there. As I stated, the beautiful chiddush of the Meshech Chochmah. It's a little late. I just want to end off the chashivas of the mitzvah of Dal and Minim. Tremendous chashivas. We don't realize. What's the chashivas of Dal and Minim? The pasuk says in Parashat Kiseitze, the mitzvah of Kan Tzibor, mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan, comes your way, and Lo yisikach eim abanim shaliach hashalachas eim leman yitav loch. Chash Baruch Hu give a richa zamim. Says Rashi, a beautiful Rashi. Rashi says, mitzvah kalash eim bachasar and kiss amra Torah leman yitav loch v'hach yomim. A mitzvah which doesn't cost any money. A mitzvah kala. What does Rashi call a mitzvah kala? An easy mitzvah. It doesn't cost any money. You found a bird, mother, and eggs. Free mitzvah v'harach yomim. What's a mitzvah chamuras? A mitzvah which costs a lot of money. Now, throughout the year, throughout our lives, we spend a lot of money in mitzvahs. Okay, we buy tefillin, we buy matzahs, but there's a very big difference between lulav, dal minim, and the other mitzvahs, and that is, tefillin costs a lot of money, but you use it your whole life. Okay, esrig, lulav, you pick it up, you yetzer in 1 second. The rice is 1 second. Okay, seven days, they're bonum. Fine. Matzah, you get some satisfaction out of it. You get full, you get geschmack, it's very expensive. But there is some satisfaction. Lulav, there's no satisfaction. Also, sometimes people, you buy an aliyah for somebody, $500, or you get stuck up, whatever it is. There's somebody who knows about it. But this is bein Adam la Kadosh Baruch Hu only. Kadosh Baruch Hu knows, did you get a beautiful esrig? You got a $150 esrig, you got a $20 esrig. There's something special about the mitzvah. It's a mitzvah chamura. The mitzvahs cost a lot of money, and at the mitzvahs you get no benefit. It's not like matzah; you don't get full from an esrig, and you answer in 1 second, and nobody knows that you spent it. It's just for you and for Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's it. No one else knows. And I want to end off with a beautiful Rambam. Rambam says in Hilchos Shchita, we all know the mitzvah of Kisui Hadam. The mitzvah of Kisui Hadam. After you shech the chaya and the oif, you have to cover the blood. Says the Rambam, don't kick the dirt onto the blood. Don't kick it. How should you do it? Because don't cover it with your foot. Biyadai, use your hand. Sakin, use a knife. Bekli, kedei shelo minig bezoyin b'mitzvahs v'yu bezuyas olav. Don't treat mitzvahs bezuyas. Don't treat mitzvahs bezuyas. She'ein hakoved la'atzman shel mitzvahs. Person thinks, I'm going to get a beautiful esrog. I'm going to do a mitzvah in a chashuv way. I'm going to treat the mitzvah with kavod. Is it the mitzvah you treat with kavod? You're not treating the mitzvah with kavod. You treat a mitzvah with kavod, it's straight to kavod to Kadosh Baruch Hu. You do it. You don't cover the kisei down with your foot, because if you do, it's bizayin to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu told you the mitzvah. You do it with derech kavod. So you have here a mitzvah of dal minim. It comes once a year, and it costs a lot of money if you get a kosher, beautiful esrog. It costs you $150. But make a cheshbon nefesh. What do you spend on other things? Do you have extra money to put towards $100 towards an esrog? Maybe this is where you should put your money. Maybe. And if you do this mitzvah dal minim properly, you do it. It's a kiddush Hashem. It's a Kadosh Baruch Hu is that you're being mechabed. And b'schus the mitzvah of dal minim, which we zeiche to chesiv chesiv tova neged kibed shiur.